What if I told you that one Chinese dynasty controlled more territory, commanded greater wealth, and influenced more people than any other in China's long history? At its peak, this dynasty ruled an empire larger than the Roman Empire at its height. Its armies numbered over 1 million soldiers. Its emperor could demand tribute from kings across Asia. Its economy produced nearly half of the entire world's GDP at one point, and yet very few people outside China fully understand just how powerful it truly was. This is the story of the Qing Dynasty, the most powerful Chinese dynasty in history. Let's dive deep into this extraordinary chapter of human history. In the early 17th century, far to the northeast of the Ming dynasty's borders, a group of semi-nomadic tribes known as the Jurchens lived in the dense forests and rugged mountains. These were tough, resilient people, skilled in horsemanship, archery, and survival in harsh conditions. A visionary leader named Nurhaci began uniting the scattered Jurchen tribes through a mix of military conquest, strategic marriages, and iron discipline. His son, Hong Taiji, continued this work. In 1636, he officially renamed his people the Manchus and declared the founding of the Qing dynasty, meaning pure or clear. The moment to seize China came in 1644. The Ming dynasty was collapsing under the weight of massive peasant rebellions, famine, and widespread corruption. When rebel forces led by Li Zicheng stormed into Beijing, the last Ming emperor hanged himself on a tree outside the Forbidden City. The Manchus saw their golden opportunity. They formed a strategic alliance with Ming generals who hated the rebels more than they feared the outsiders. Together, they crushed the rebellion and marched triumphantly into Beijing. This marked the beginning of the Qing dynasty's rule over China, a foreign conquest that would last 268 years and elevate Chinese imperial power to its absolute historical peak. The early Qing emperors proved to be exceptionally capable rulers. The first truly outstanding emperor was Kangxi, who ascended the throne at the tender age of 7 and ruled for an astonishing 61 years, one of the longest reigns in Chinese history. Kangxi was a rare combination of military genius and intellectual curiosity. He personally led military campaigns to suppress rebellions in southern China. He defeated Russian forces in border conflicts along the Amur River. He successfully incorporated Taiwan into the empire for the first time, and he secured the dangerous northern frontiers by defeating powerful Mongol tribes. But Kangxi was much more than a conqueror. He was a passionate scholar who studied mathematics, astronomy, and even Western science introduced by Jesuit missionaries at court. He commissioned the famous Kangxi Dictionary, which became the standard reference for the Chinese language for centuries. He showed genuine interest in the outside world while remaining deeply committed to traditional Chinese values. His grandson, the Qianlong Emperor, would take the Qing Empire to its absolute zenith. During Qianlong's 60-year reign, the Qing reached its greatest territorial extent, over 14.7 million square kilometers. This was larger than the Roman Empire at its peak and bigger than modern China, plus Mongolia, Tibet, and Xinjiang combined. Qianlong launched the famous 10 Great Campaigns, a series of major military expeditions that expanded and secured the empire's borders. He conquered the vast western region of Xinjiang, firmly incorporated Tibet, and made neighboring kingdoms from Korea to Vietnam and Central Asia regularly send tribute to the Qing court in Beijing. Economically, Qing China dominated the world. In the late 18th century, China accounted for roughly 30 to 35% of global GDP. The empire was a manufacturing and agricultural powerhouse, producing enormous quantities of tea, silk, porcelain, cotton, and rice. Major cities like Beijing, Nanjing, Suzhou, and Guangzhou were among the largest and wealthiest urban centers on Earth. The Qing court received tribute from rulers across Asia. Foreign merchants waited anxiously in Guangzhou for permission to trade with what was then the richest civilization in the world. For more than a century, the Qing system worked with remarkable efficiency. The emperors maintained one of the most sophisticated bureaucratic systems in world history. They balanced strict central control with a degree of local autonomy in many regions. However, ruling such a vast and diverse empire brought serious long-term challenges. The Qing enforced a clear ethnic hierarchy. Manchus were the ruling elite, while the vast Han Chinese population were treated as subjects. To symbolize submission, Han men were required to adopt the Manchu queue hairstyle, shaving the front of the head and braiding the rest. This policy created deep resentment among many Han Chinese, but for a long time, the Qing's military strength and administrative skill kept the empire stable and prosperous. Yet even the mightiest empires face tests they cannot overcome. By the 19th century, cracks began to appear. The empire had grown complacent. Corruption spread through the bureaucracy. Rapid population growth put enormous pressure on farmland and resources. Natural disasters became more frequent and destructive. The first major external blow came with the Opium Wars. Britain, seeking to balance its massive trade deficit, began smuggling large quantities of opium into China. When the Qing government attempted to stop the drug trade, Britain responded with superior naval firepower. In the First Opium War, 1839 to 1842, China suffered a humiliating defeat and was forced to sign the Treaty of Nanking, the first of many unequal treaties that opened Chinese ports and granted foreign powers special privileges. The Second Opium War, 1856 to 1860, was even more devastating. Anglo-French forces looted and burned the magnificent Old Summer Palace outside Beijing. But the greatest internal crisis was the Taiping Rebellion, 1850 to 1864. Led by Hong Xiuquan, who claimed to be the younger brother of Jesus Christ, this massive civil war engulfed large parts of southern China. The Taiping Heavenly Kingdom challenged Qing rule directly and established its own capital in Nanjing. The conflict became one of the deadliest wars in human history, claiming between 20 and 30 million lives. The Qing barely survived, only with assistance from foreign-trained armies. Despite these crushing blows, the Qing showed surprising resilience. In the late 19th century, reform-minded officials launched the self-strengthening movement, building modern factories, shipyards, railways, and armies. For a brief moment, it seemed China might successfully modernize, but conservative resistance at court, deep-rooted corruption, and continued foreign pressure proved overwhelming. The empire was slowly disintegrating from within. The final chapter came swiftly. In 1911, the Xinhai Revolution, inspired by Sun Yat-sen and revolutionary ideas, spread rapidly across China. Province after province declared independence from Qing rule. On February 12, 1912, the 6-year-old Puyi, the last emperor of China, was forced to issue the abdication edict. After 268 years of Qing rule and more than 2,000 years of continuous imperial tradition, the era of emperors in China had finally come to an end. So why was the Qing Dynasty the most powerful in Chinese history? Territorially, it was the largest China had ever been. Economically, it dominated global manufacturing and trade for over a century. Militarily, it maintained the largest standing army in the world during its peak. Culturally, it preserved classical Chinese traditions, while successfully incorporating vast new territories and diverse peoples. Yet its very strengths eventually became weaknesses: the rigid ethnic hierarchy, resistance to fast modernization, overconfidence in its own superiority, and inability to adapt to the industrial age, and rising Western powers ultimately led to its downfall. The Qing represents both the magnificent peak and the final sunset of traditional Chinese imperial civilization. The story of the Qing Dynasty is one of breathtaking achievement, immense power, cultural richness, and ultimately tragic decline. It stands as a powerful reminder that even the greatest empires must eventually face the test of time and change. If this deep exploration of China's most powerful dynasty inspired or surprised you, please like the video, subscribe to the channel,